Welcome to the HOAM Front Podcast. Every month, our hosts, Andrew Brock and Hosanna Hansen, sit down with high-level industry leaders and innovators to demystify the digital revolution. Join us as we explore the power of technology solutions in PropTech and real estate, discuss the future, and unpack emerging trends, hot topics, and challenges. Let's get into the show.
Well, hi, everyone. Welcome back to the HOAM Front. I'm Andrew Brock.
And I'm Hosanna Hansen.
And we're your hosts. It's so good to have you with us today. And we are really excited to have today's guest. We've been referring to her as the talent.
Very flattered.
Today's talent is a fantastic person. Really thrilled y'all get a chance to get to know her a little more. Katie Foell is the global president of TownSq, which is the largest technology platform in the residential management industry. And Katie and I, in full disclosure, have known each other for about 20 years.
20 years.
And a few years ago, TownSq became a subsidiary of Home Ventures. And so Katie and I are now having a great opportunity to work together even closer. But Katie, we're thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome to the HOAM Front.
Thank you. Thank you. It's glowing.
I know, exactly. Yes, it's the talent.
I do. You're very kind.
So, Katie, let's flash back to little Katie Foell, growing up in Connecticut. Did you ever think that you would be running the largest technology company in the residential real estate industry?
To be fair, no. The answer is a firm no there.
Okay.
I started my career in project management. I think it's the perfect career opportunity for a bossy lady. Just happens to be that I've got some tendencies. I know somebody else who also started in
That's right. And I just surround myself with women who tell me what to do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So come from a project management background and started within the managed community industry about 10 years ago. 10 and a half years ago now it's been, which has gone by in a flash.
Yeah.
And so I've had the true blessings and I've had great mentorship and things like that. And folks have given me wonderful opportunities. Andrew undersells it a little bit, but we've worked together quite closely together in the past. And he's afforded me some really wonderful opportunities to take on new experiences.
Oh my gosh, well-deserved opportunities. And now you're running a technology company of over 6 million users.
It's a great responsibility. It's really incredible. And I must say that the team takes that very, very seriously. I think, it is the thing that gets us to the office in the morning. It is the thing that we are all thinking about before heading off to sleep at night. Being responsible for providing those services to that many end users is really not to be understated. We take it very, very seriously.
Yeah. Well, and Hosanna, you've had the opportunity of working with Katie for a while as well.
I
Yes.
know, almost a decade now, which is just incredible.
I know, I can't believe it. Yes.
And we're all friends.
And we're here to talk about it.
We've lived to laugh.
I know. It has been, it really has been such a ride. I started with Katie, like she said, almost 10 years ago. She was my boss in project management, taught me the bossy ways.
I know.
And now it's so fun to come full circle back around and working for her again. So it definitely has been a fun ride.
That's exactly right.
Well, ladies, thank you for sponsoring this great podcast. It's great to have you as our main sponsor.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you very much. I'm really excited. This is obviously my first podcast experience, and so very, very happy to be here.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully we set the bar high.
Well, certainly.
Katie, it's interesting. So 6 million users. I think back to when TownSq launched in the United States.
Yes.
5 or so years ago. And
2017 to be exact.
2017.
Yep.
And so the journey from there to now has been astronomical.
It's fair.
And, I was just reflecting on this earlier today, when the product entered the U.S. market, I felt like at times the product was almost leading the industry. It was more of a, the industry hadn't quite caught up to some of the functionality that was there.
Yeah.
And now I think the catalyst was obviously, the pandemic was a real catalyst, I think, for all kinds of advancement and rapid change in the industry. Have you experienced that? And what are the ways that, perhaps the product is, being sold differently now than even pre-pandemic?
Yeah, I think when I think back to 2017, at its heart and its core, TownSq has always been a communication tool. And so, thinking back, it was really the most thoughtfully designed communication tool between a manager of a managed community, whomever that might be, whether it be a volunteer board member or a member of a management company, and the homeowners.
Yeah.
And I think it was considered innovative at the time. I think the product was the most thoughtfully designed communication tool of that time.
Yeah.
Then the pandemic happens, and communication tools became table stakes for folks. Everybody had to run to catch up because they needed digital ways to communicate in a new virtual world.
Yeah.
As a result of that, we had already kind of set the bar in that space, so it allowed us to continue to innovate and to focus on the next thing that was coming.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we saw a lot of needs come out of the pandemic period of time. Things like we were able to put an emphasis on developing a digital voting solution, which we're very, very excited about. That launched a couple of years ago, and we've had great success with it. And as well as finding new and thoughtful ways to simplify and automate the responsibilities of a community manager within the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because that was also a time, underpinned by the Great Resignation.
Fair.
So a lot of communities, a lot of management companies were struggling even to find managerial talent and to find people willing to serve communities. So
exactly
the
right.
technology components of that were really critical to the continued growth through that time, I think.
That's exactly right. I think it is still at the forefront of management company leaders' minds, is what to do to protect the community manager, protect them from work overload, protect them from the negative feedback that can sometimes bubble up within a community.
Sure.
And really give them some work-life balance in what tends to be a bit of a thankless industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Katie, you brought up a really good point when you said, TownSqu's number one goal at first was communication, and it was all about the experience. And I feel like throughout TownSq, you've continued to lead that way of, will this feature, will this enhancement be a better experience for our users? And one of the things, just kind of to go back to, that I think is really cool that TownSq was able to do is when the pandemic hit, to your point, Katie, it was, you had already created an atmosphere just within your work culture because most of your team, well, not most, but some of your team was in Brazil. Fair. And so all of those toolings that when the pandemic hit, a lot of people had to catch up. How do we communicate and how do we actually do workflow? Because we're used to being an office where TownSq and the organization, that leadership that you had, you already had those things in place that allowed you really to focus on your technology and less on, okay, how are we just going to run and operate?
It's beautifully said.
I think it's interesting too, because I remember back to the launch time frame and the idea of delivering a digital experience that was consistent with a homeowner or a board member's experience as a consumer in their regular life, as opposed to being through the filter of the way other property solutions operate. It was, the bar was a consumer experience. And I love how you continue to have that kind of on the forefront. as opposed to a filter through some industry expectation.
I think it's a really interesting point. And I do think it goes back to some of the vision and values of the founders of TownSq and the true entrepreneurial and startup concept that accompanied the development of this product. And certainly with the growth comes the responsibility to expand that end user market. We consider our customers to date to be quite vast. We have a number of business partners that in some spaces are considered partners, and then in some spaces are considered competitors. But it's really positioned us to be able to offer a set of services to customers that would be limited in some other spaces. I think also making sure that we have answers for all different sizes and types of communities.
Oh, sure.
The large format and large footprint single associations, the small high-rise and associations, to super enterprise sized management companies. I think where we have felt like we've been innovative in this space is that we want to be able to provide solutions that work for all sides of the spectrum of these customers, but also always thinking consumer first.
Right. Now, that being said, Katie, when you talk about the history of TownSq, of where you started and where you are now, and you look at that innovative journey that you've gone on, how would you be able to kind of summarize where you started and where you are now from more of a platform perspective?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. It's tough to summarize because it feels so highly nuanced to us. But really, what I think what it all boils down to is that everybody is trying to drive engagement within their community, and I think that is what technology companies within the managed community industry, we are all trying to achieve. The simplification of that, the automation of that, the enablement of driving that engagement. I think there's lots of different ways you can go about it. And the way that we have really felt like we have found the most success is to work it through a platform lens. And the way that I think about that is I hate to use some I'm stealing some words from other folks, but Andrew, you have historically said this really beautifully, but think about it in a modular sense. And what it allows us to do is evaluate the needs and the problems and the concerns of every single customer and be able to tailor make a solution for them. Certain customers, we can plug together TownSq Community, TownSq Business to help enable their portfolio management. We toss in a little community archives in there for resale and estoppel work. We can tailor make solutions that are right-sized and to fit the unique needs and challenges of every single association. I think this concept of a platform has done a beautiful job of making that easy to articulate to our customers, and it really provides the value that they need without having to overbuy, for example.
Absolutely.
Well, and even just the way the TownSq business operates, a global team, a global business serving global clients. The idea of we call it the BPO offering, but the idea of doing work on behalf of the companies that we're serving, the accounting work, the customer care work, to leverage a global workforce. You are already operating that way. it became a super easy extension
It's very, yeah.
of your existing business model, and it's proven to be ridiculously successful.
Yes, it's something we're incredibly proud of, and have really kind of launched historically throughout our history as a company. We have been offering accounting services and financial services to our customers in Brazil for a number of years now.
Yeah.
And so that has recently been expanded to the United States. And so we are now offering TownSq financial and accounting services, or business process outsourcing, and optimization. There's lots of different O's that you can use there.
Okay. Outstanding.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And so it's been a wonderful offering to our customers who, quite frankly, would like to focus on managing the community, and let's outsource the financial components of it. We know how critically important that that information is to keep up in a thoughtful way, but certainly is something that can be executed by a well-trained group of folks using thoughtful technologies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, one of the cool things I think about TownSq is how your company just so perfectly puts together the experience, the customer experience, and this innovative technology. And I know that you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but your team in Brazil and those foundations of innovation, how do you continue to keep that innovative type of culture as you continue to grow? Because oftentimes we see the bigger we get, the more structured we get. But I think you've done a really fantastic job in staying nimble. So what does that look like? Or how do you continue to foster that?
Well, I'm going to give you part of an answer, and then I think you should answer the back half of the question yourself.
Watch out, Hosanna.
I know.
Watch out what questions you ask.
No, I think it's a wonderful question, because it is something that I'm incredibly proud of throughout our entire company, and that is the innovative spirit of our team in Brazil. And so I think, there's about 250 folks that operate within the country of Brazil for us now. And just about over half of them are located in our office in Porto Alegre. I've had the great pleasure of making 2 visits so far, and we'll be heading back there in a couple of weeks to celebrate our 10-year anniversary for TownSq, which is very exciting.
Unbelievable.
But back to your question, they have this wonderful program, and one of the things, this is a technology organization where you're primarily dealing with the hiring and cultivation of development team members and software engineers. They've done a really beautiful job of creating programs that take kids right out of college, sometimes before they graduate from college.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not trying to quote this for real, but I think the average age is somewhere directionally around 23 or 24 years old.
I feel really old anytime I'm around that. I don't feel like I look that old, but I feel old around that entire team.
I can certainly be a lot of their mothers. That is for certain. And so I think, they've done a beautiful job of cultivating a learning environment and really sprinkling in a lot of the fun and innovative new technology trends into the development work. If we sat down and said, everybody else in the industry is doing XYZ in this specific way, and they're all solving the problem the exact same way, go do that. I do not think we would have the same level of success.
No. Right.
What we work very hard to do is to state a problem and let really talented, innovative, thoughtful thinkers get in a room together and come up with what they feel is the right solution to that. And I think that puts us on a different path than a lot of our competitors in the space.
Yeah, it's so true. They dream up kind of a new approach to solving the problem.
Yes.
And shy away. They certainly take input of how things have been solved before. Shy away from just taking that, though, as the answer.
Right.
Would much rather spend days and days shadowing users and dreaming up how best some new piece of technology can solve their problem and then put them in a position for even greater success than they might have even anticipated.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, Hosanna, do you mind if I posed the question
Oh,
back
here
to
we
you?
go.
I know it. I know.
We should have established some ground rules
Right,
ahead of time. But since we're filming, now it's a free-for-all.
I know.
late.
That's exactly right.
Why, thanks, Katie. I'll pay you later.
But in all seriousness,
Yeah.
this is a new role that you are taking on within the company as the vice president and the leader of our people and culture.
Yes.
How what do you think about how we integrate globally and some of the values that come out of working internationally?
Right, absolutely. I think to your point, Katie, it brings about so much innovation where we can get so stuck in what we know, but bringing new people to the table and not putting them in a box and going, okay, what are you, here's to your point, here's our problem, or here's what we're trying to solve. And we're going to give you no stipulations except for come to the table with that. And I think a lot of that comes from a cultural perspective as well, is working with the Brazil team and going, okay, you guys are doing some things really, really well. What are those things? What are those values? What are those principles? And then also stateside. Okay, teams, what are you doing really well? Now let's bring you both to the table and let's listen to both sides and see how can we both mutually benefit, but also pull together so that we can have a unified front as we look at ourselves now, which is really exciting, as a global company.
Yeah, I think one other thing that I'll just mention, we keep talking about the youth and the innovative spirit, and the fact that, we do have a lot of our software engineers are from outside of this particular industry. What we couple that with, though, is people with deep industry experience.
Great point.
And so it's a wonderful marriage, if you ask me, to try to, we have folks who understand the foundational challenges that both our homeowners face, as well as our community managers and management company leaders face, because they've sat in those seats before.
Yeah,
and
that's
you
a really
couple
good
that
point.
together with thoughtful and out of the box thinking and net new technologies and emerging insights and all those kind of sexy technology things that we say, and it really does result in something that is fairly unique, and we hope is viewed by our customers as being well designed and intuitive to use, and it solves a lot of their problems.
We'd like to thank TownSq for sponsoring this episode of the Homefront. TownSq is the all-in-one platform offering the most comprehensive suite of solutions for neighbors, boards, vendors, and management teams. Visit www.townsq.io to learn more. That's www.townsq.io.
So, we've been speaking about kind of the global teams. Katie, as you've stepped into the role, you've been in the role now, 14 months?
Just about,
or so? What's been I think the best surprise from your point of view, stepping in as the leader of really a global technology company? What's been the most pleasant surprise?
Well, one could say being a guest on a podcast.
We like that answer.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. Yes.
I think it is getting to know a team of this size and scale. And to your point, Andrew, we've just spent quite a bit of time talking about how amazing the global organization is. But it really can't go understated how energizing these teams are, the passion they have for what they're doing, the desire to create really, really innovative solutions for our customers. That is wildly energizing. The level of ambition that folks have is
Yeah.
something that I'm not certain at their age I necessarily even had that twinkle in my eye. And really what gets them going, and sorry, what I mean by them is the global team in Brazil. The team there, what really sets them apart to me is that they tie a lot of their personal accomplishment to the group accomplishment.
Yeah,
And
I love it.
I'm trying to think of a thoughtful way of saying
No,
that,
I
but
got it, yeah.
I
The
think
success of the
the
team. Yeah.
is really what they are looking for. And that is wildly refreshing.
Yes.
Yes.
I just don't know if my prior work experience, I could have said something like that.
Yeah.
And so it is a wonderfully energizing. Look, traveling there can be a little time consuming and travel
Over
like
the
that
river and through the woods.
It is not the easiest trek of all to get there and back. But I leave there so energized. I know I keep using that word, but it really is the right one. And just feeling so positive about what that team brings to the table.
Yeah.
And again, just marrying it together with the levels of deep industry experience that we have within, the United States organization. I just think it's a wonderful marriage and is wildly unique to other folks.
Yeah. I mean, and I personally even love, listen, we all have difficult days as we're building a business and, things where, sometimes it's just hard running into the wind, right? But I tell you, just walking out of, my office and going and being near the customer service teams here in our building, it's, oh my gosh, every day, every time I'm able to do that, it's just exciting. It reminds me, there's so many great things happening and an organization filled with amazing people.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We have a large team here that work out of our Richardson, Dallas office. And the desire of these organizations, this is things like our systems implementations team, our customer service teams for various products, our support organization and fulfillment organizations for our resale product, community archives. These teams have done a wonderful job of coming together. We've grown organically. This concept of bringing together 3 independent software products and software applications into a single platform experience for our customers has not been the simplest endeavor to bring these teams
Very
of
challenging.
very different cultures together.
Yeah.
Very challenging.
But oh my goodness, have the teams embraced it?
Yeah.
And some teams I think are further down the path than others, as to be expected. But the teams that have really embraced it and faced the challenge head on and made it a priority for their business objectives, I think we're seeing really phenomenal results.
Yeah.
That is really good. Now, since the tables were turned a little bit on me, I feel like it's only fair to turn them a a little bit here on you,
Oh,
Andrew.
I think that's wonderful. Yes.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm being ganged up on.
Exactly.
Just prepare. I don't know what's coming my way.
I love it.
All right, ladies, fire
I
away.
know. I was going to say this won't be personal, right?
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I'm not going to go into my dating life. Dating life is off the table.
As we talk about innovation, technology, and the guests that we've had on our podcast,
Yes.
Andrew, we've been talking about how do we brace the future? What are you looking at? And as the CEO of HOAM Ventures, how do you look at your future with regards to technology? What are you seeing coming up over the horizon?
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have? No, it's a huge question. I think here's something that I like to always remind myself, because the pace of technology, the technological change is so fast that it's easy to sometimes get distracted by the latest thing and take your eyes off the North Star.
So true.
Right. And so, there's so much talk right now about AI and what are we going to do about AI? And well, hold on a second. What's our North Star? Where are we going as a company? And what are our values? And technology comes and goes. Certainly, I think from an AI standpoint, we're just now seeing the beginnings of that. Certainly, it's going to mature. There's going to be a million different use cases. It's important to kind of keep, your finger on the pulse and watch where things are gaining traction or not. But at the end of the day, I think there's always going to be a need to simplify community management.
Yes.
So, and that can look like a bunch of different things. Automation, workflow, AI can be a part of that. So the simplification, I think, is one piece. I also think there's a need for continued transparency. If you think about a large community with several thousand homeowners, how does a single manager or a manager perhaps with an assistant, how could they possibly be able to keep up with delivering a standard of customer service that they hold themselves to?
Yes.
Right. It's very difficult. Right. So
Very.
Technology, I think from a transparency standpoint, we hear your request. We're working on it. Here's the status. How do you do that technologically in a way that's scalable?
Yeah.
I think the other piece that I think of a lot is, no one's necessarily asking us for this, but perhaps, I believe we have a role to play in it. And that is, as we're coming out of the pandemic, so many people were in their homes so much. There's been a lot of stress. I was reading a statistic the other night just about the vast majority of Americans who are on, all kinds of, medications and things to just counteract stress and anxiety, right? And like, how can we as a company foster neighborliness?
Right.
How can we foster the idea of being a good neighbor? And I think for a lot of our guests, we've even asked them, like, what's a great example of being a good neighbor? And, we'd love to hear their stories. How can we encourage that, foster it, and use technology really from a position of strength?
Yeah.
To change the dialogue, to focus on the positive. We had Allie Beth Allman in here a few weeks ago. There were so many things that struck me about that conversation with her, but the one thing that really stuck with me was no matter what kind of crazy story we heard of some adversity, she immediately had a way to focus on the positive and how it completely changed the outcome. And so I think that exists. That opportunity exists for us as well.
Yeah.
And from a technology standpoint, all kinds of different tools we can use for that. Yeah. But I see it not only as part of our business, but I see it as our obligation. And is there a way to crack it?
Right. That is a really good. Yeah, that's really something to think about because so often technology is very isolating. And I think that's what we've seen.
Great point.
Right?
Yeah.
You have all of these things. You feel like you have some kind of community, but the reality of it is you're all alone. And so now we're entering into this age. So I love that kind of dichotomy that you brought about is as a leading technology company, can we provide true community without isolating? And if so, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Which I don't know if there are many other technology companies asking that question, but I love that because there is a human piece to what our industry does.
It's back to purpose. Listen, a lot of companies exist. Look, I think back to business school. Well, the number one reason a company exists is to increase shareholder value. Certainly, right? You can't be a business if you're not profitable and can't stay in business. But from a purpose standpoint, can we transform the lives of the people living in the communities we serve in a way that's positive and makes them feel less alone, makes them feel more connected to their neighbors, makes them feel like the business of community has been handled in a simplified way so that they are free to then do the things only a human can do, which is build relationships.
That's exactly right.
I don't know if that answers Joel's question.
That was really lovely, and you put it so wonderfully.
You're like, we're not going to ask you any more questions, Andrew, because you ate up all the time.
I certainly think it brings up a lot of the challenges that we are faced with continually. I vividly remember launching TownSq again back in 2017, and the forum being such.
It still is
a topic.
Yeah, it still is a topic.
100%.
And the selling point back in 2017 is still one of the selling points
of
today.
Yeah, it is.
And that is that it can be moderated and adjusted, and things that things that belong in the requests and messages area can be taken offline and handled privately and not publicly. And so I think about some of the challenges of designing that particular feature and rolling it out. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. So now I think one of the challenges is that correspondence between a community manager and a person within the community, 9 times out of 10 is, I need something, I want something done differently, or I need a work order placed, or what have you. It's you alerting the community manager to something that is wrong in the community, trying to measure that against the opportunity to also have announcements for picnics and, kind of being able to use the tools to allow the community to engage, allow folks to get out of their house and be neighborly, set up the meal train for somebody who's going through something. All of those opportunities are all there. It's just not necessarily something that is focused on as much as how do you get through the blocking and tackling of handling the desires and the wants and the needs of the folks within the community. But it is something that we are acutely aware of.
Yeah, and it's an evolution, right? Like the second you give someone an opportunity to like voice a concern or something, that's the very first thing they're going to do, right? Until they realize that there's more available there.
Yes.
Right. And perhaps, I mean, that's the power of technology, right? Like the idea that all of a sudden there's now a way, instead of calling a management company and trying to get someone to pick up the phone and answer your question, it's all just available. Pick up your phone, text the request, and get it out of your head. So anyway, I'm excited about the future and where this is going to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback just one last thing off of that, but with regards to, what you brought up earlier, simplifying the workload of a community manager. How can you streamline those processes? Well, the more that technology can streamline those processes, handle those requests, handle the workload that they have, that frees up to then focus on the engaging component of it.
That's right.
Well said. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And, the other thing, Katie, I think is interesting is, it's very there's levels of difficulty, right? Building a product, building a certain app, building a platform.
Yes.
Very different. And I think what's been fascinating to watch is the evolution of that with TownSq saying, we want to be the leading platform.
Yes.
And what I find interesting, and it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this, is the one place to go for all needs, your architectural requests, your votes, your paying your bill, your dues, getting the right information and flyer about an event, reserving the party room. I mean, all those things, right? But the idea of plugging in other technology tools.
That's exactly right.
And to a certain extent, TownSq has become a provider of services to other technology firms as well.
That's exactly right.
Which has been a fascinating evolution to watch.
That's exactly right. Our business partnerships are something that I personally cherish.
Yeah.
It has, my roles within the company, I have come up through Advanced Technology Group, the makers of C3, prior to kind of merging that together with TownSq. And so I am still responsible for those business units. And what is fascinating is that I have other ERP and accounting system business partners on the TownSq side that would be considered direct competitors to C3 on that side. And everybody in this industry is really, really supportive of pulling together to get customers the solutions that they need.
Exactly right. It's fascinating.
It really is. I certainly wouldn't say that goes for everybody, but it certainly goes for a good share of them.
Yeah.
And I think we've proven to be excellent business partners to them, and they have been excellent business partners to us. And what it allows us to do is slice and dice our solutions in such a way that we can get you just what you need, and put an emphasis on the places that are important to you in the problems that you're trying to solve, and then not oversell you on something that you don't need. I think one of the challenges that has faced folks on the technology side of our industry is, how do you create solutions for both sides of the managed community spectrum? And what I mean by that is, you could have a relatively small single association where they are looking for a communication tool and a way for their homeowners to be able to pay their assessments. But that's the end of it. And then you have these large super enterprise customers who need a laundry list of automations and integrated solutions, and data needs to flow seamlessly. You need real-time access to your ledgers as a homeowner. You need automatic reconciliations of electronic payments, and all of these really robust technological solutions. You need a big bundle of those to support those customers. And I think where we have really won the day in this space is that we'll bring any dance partner to the table.
That's right.
To be able to create a customized solution for what our customer needs. And that's really the beauty of the platform. And I think I have to tip my hat to our architects who
That's
really
a great point.
Really were visionaries in this space. And said, you know what, it's going to be okay to partner with
there's enough business.
There's
enough
lots.
business.
That's exactly right. There's lots of folks out there with really thoughtful and powerful solutions. Let's team up. And I think that's really moved the needle for us.
Katie, one of the questions we ask people, and I've hinted at it already, is either when you're growing up or now as a homeowner. I know you've lived in different states and cities. Have you encountered someone, you and your husband, where you felt like one of your neighbors was like the definition of a great neighbor? And if so, what were their characteristics like?
I think it's such a kind question, and I think does speak to a lot of where your head is for how to frame up this concept of community, even from a technology perspective. I'll just talk about something that happened very recently, and it's a little wildly personal. So I hope I don't want to go into too much detail here. But I was recently visiting my parents. Have had some health problems recently, and the ambulance had to come to my parents' house. I was recently visiting, and I was getting out of my rental car, and my parents' neighbor came running down the driveway to stop me and find out what had happened and make sure everybody was okay. Asked if it would be all right if he took care of moving the garbage cans for my father. Up and down the driveway, which is quite steep, for him for the next couple of weeks, and just say, don't worry about it. I'll take care of simple things like that. I'll gladly pick up your mail for you. It was very, very kind. He knew we were in a moment of need. And with my parents aging, it was incredibly just really small little gestures.
But enormous.
But enormously helpful. And also really showed how much he cared. And he cared about, how they were doing and that they were able to maintain living in the house. And so just little things like that. But boy, it meant the world to me, and it was incredibly kind gesture.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I hope I can do it for somebody else one day.
You're already a great neighbor. Are you kidding me?
I do try.
Yeah. No, my gosh. You and your husband, I think, are like the hub of your community. What are you talking
We
about?
certainly do. We do. We just loaned our golf cart out to somebody for the 4th of July weekend who was having company because we didn't need it. So. We're golf cart loaners as well.
Did they have to reserve it through Town Square?
Hey, I know. We really should have made them go through it.
All right, Katie. So kind of final question here. There's a lot of people who are starting out in the technology space or earlier in their careers and wanting, have kind of aspirations for leading a company. You've had a fantastic career journey. Like all of us, not all of us, like most of us, non-linear, right?
Fair.
Like,
yes.
Zigs and zags and things like that ultimately kept moving forward. But any thoughts you would have for people who would aspire to be running a company like you are today?
That's a very flattering question, first of all, just to kind of think about it from that side of the house. I think I have two pieces of advice. Both are fairly tactical. First is do not say no to opportunities that are presented to you. I'm notorious for it. I am not the poster child of that advice.
Do you lead with no?
I lead with no. I think that is something that I have worked very, very hard on. So I think if you are provided the opportunity for a stretch opportunity, if you are provided the opportunity to run a special project, to be able to kind of separate yourselves from the pack, my recommendation is to take advantage of that. And do not say no to that opportunity. That experience, I feel like generationally we've started to kind of go askew. So this might be my old school nature. But the concept that living through something and making mistakes and perhaps failing, that experience is somehow worth less ultimately than something you read in a book or have been taught in a class or something that you've seen in an online forum. That those two things are equivalent. I do not agree with. I truly believe that you learn more from making a mistake than you do from knocking it out of the park. And so I would say never say no to an opportunity that's provided to you. The second thing I would say, and I think if I can just kind of point it back to the two of you, is surround yourself with really excellent people. As we started this conversation and started talking about how long we have all known each other and how long we have worked together in various capacities and at various companies and things, I think there's something to be said for that. You surround yourself with really energetic, enterprising, hardworking, ambitious people, and it's contagious. You just find yourself falling right into that, and I think it's a wonderful culture boost for you personally. So those would probably be my two.
Oh, so good.
I know my two pieces of advice.
This is fantastic. I know I said it was the final question, but Hosanna, I'd love for you actually to have the final question.
Oh, I love this.
So that was a tease.
I know,
I teased.
Oh my gosh,
I know.
Going.
I know you got to dig deep now for another one.
Goodness gracious, I'm rolling up my sleeves. Okay, she has the hard ones,
I know she
I
does.
know. Maybe we'll
Comes right in.
How about this? I'll do an easy one. Okay.
That's kind.
Little Katie Foell.
Yes.
What did she want to be?
Oh, really? What I wanted to be when I grew up? I wanted to be a forest ranger.
Really? Really?
Were there a lot of like was there a lot of like forest
Yes.
around where you grew up?
Yes, yeah. My happy place where I grew up was taking hikes in the woods. Do you know my father still hikes
wow.
almost daily?
I didn't realize there was that much
I didn't either.
Yes.
forest area around where you grew up in Connecticut.
Yes, yes. So there are some wonderful hiking trails and things like that, and that was absolutely my happy place. So I started off in college as an agricultural major, a forestry major in the
Yeah.
agricultural school, and sadly, I learned how to do controlled burns and kind of chop them
Oh,
down
sure.
and things like that
Yeah.
a little bit more than I did for environmental protection, which is kind of what I was going for.
Yeah.
So I switched majors at that point in time, but yes, my first desire was to be a forest ranger, which I think is a super bizarre thing to say.
I love
corporate
this
environment
question
now.
so much.
And the fact that
You
there are
learn
no
so
trees
much.
in Texas. Oh my gosh.
I know my
Sorry about that.
topography is now roof line, but that's all right. There's plenty of places to go. You grew up in a wonderful place for that as well. I feel
did.
like you know the cathartic.
Oh my gosh.
And the kind of cleansing abilities of being in
In nature.
Yes.
Get me
Absolutely.
to a mountain.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it just it makes it all makes everything right. And you know,
You've
as
done
well.
the same thing, Hosanna. I
Absolutely.
feel like the three of us are of like mind
I know.
here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Kindred spirits when
Yep.
it comes to the mountains.
Absolutely. Well, Katie, this has been such a wonderful
Katie,
podcast.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I
I mean,
know.
it is such a privilege, one, to have you on this, but also to
My
be able to
gosh.
call you boss. So
Well, my goodness, that was really kind.
this is, but I love that other people now get to taste and see
Yes.
what I get to experience
You
every day.
always, Katie's a little behind the scenes. Only
Absolutely.
well, because her job is so big. There's a million things going on. She's really, very, very visible to our customers and stakeholders. But we're glad that we get to share with all of you our good friend Katie Foell,
Thank you so much.
global president of TownSq. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Next time over cocktails, maybe.
Done.
Done. That's a new podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
We want to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, or topic suggestions, email us at contact@thehomefront.com. That's contact@the HOAM Front.com. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Home Front Podcast for exciting news, updates, and announcements.